Nelson, who's in the slot. Look in that direction on a slant. Huge hit. Ball picked off. The Volunteers on the carry make an interception. Jawan Mitchell. They call him Juju.
Discrepancy. Schuster, they were going to take a shot, but he's hit by Nelson. And Nebraska has picked up the football. Their first takeaway of the game.
Wells way down the field. It is into coverage. It is intercepted. It is over. Lamarian James has sealed the victory for Old Dominion. And fittingly, it comes on a takeaway.
Devy IDP grind. Hopefully you followed us from the previous show we did a few minutes ago, the Big Ten East IDPs. This is the Big Ten West IDP review. I am joined by my co-host Justice. What's going on, man?
How much, man? Knocking out the.
Right. So we don't have a lot of news and notes because we ran through those on the other show. What we had. We are 20 minutes away from the Elijah Rushing announcement. That'll probably happen while we're on the show here. So, excuse me. I'll be keeping an eye out for that. See if he stays on the West Coast or if he decides to come over here to Tennessee or Notre Dame or wherever. So that's going down in 20 minutes. Check that out. We want to thank our sponsors, Trophy Smack. They sponsor our listener leagues. They give us rings for the winners. High quality stuff, nicely made. We've showed you time and time again on those. We thank them for that. MFL and Fantrax for hosting our fantasy leagues. MFL on the pro side, the NFL side, and Fantrax does the college side for us. So, again, make sure you've got good commissioners like Justice and Chop that run that college side for you and make life a lot easier. And then give them appreciation for the hard work that they do. And then we have Action 24/7. You like to gamble, getting close to that time of year. Football's just, 20-something days away from college, 29, 30, something like that. So be sure to go over to Action 24/7, place your bets over there. Locally owned gambling site by Tennesseans for Tennesseans. Like I said, baseball, basketball, football, hockey, ping pong, darts, whatever you want to bet on, they've got it. Check them out, and we thank them for sponsoring us and uses the promo code Hollywood100 when you make your deposit. Big Ten West. Got to be the weaker of the two sides, right?
Oh, definitely, right. But, I mean, there's still some nice defensive players on there for sure. But, yeah. Overall.
I think overall, it's the weaker, but I think it has one of the best defensive teams, not only in the conference, but in NCAA, right?
Oh,
Iowa's defense.
Oh, for sure, right? I mean, the best defensive team and the worst offensive team, Iowa.
It was so hard to watch their offense at times last year. I was just like, oh, my God. Horrible. Yeah. Absolutely horrible.
For sure.
We'll get to them in a moment. Let's kick it off with Illinois. And we have two here. Defensive tackle Jerzon Newton and linebacker Gabe Jacques.
So Newton kind of jumped on the scene, I guess, last year and he was a free agent in all our leagues, and then, he started producing and people picked him up. Last year, he had 59 total tackles and 5.5 sacks. And I think for Illinois, I think he really plays more of a defensive end role, right, or a 3-4 defensive end. But there's no question, with his size, in particular his weight, he's a defensive tackle at the next level.
Yeah.
And he is someone that's gotten some draft buzz. I think if there is a concern with him, maybe it's his height, right? But Kalijah Cansey wasn't a very tall guy, and it worked out well for him.
Yeah. So he's 6'2", 280.
So yeah, with the way they talk about, like, is he really 6 foot? I don't know. It's hard to say if it's what his actual height is, which we won't find out until the NFL Combine. But Newton is definitely someone that I've seen get mocked as high as the first round. But he's definitely someone I feel like should be getting drafted next draft season. But if you're not in a defensive tackle league, then your interest in him is probably strictly for college production. Because I mean, me personally, if I'm in a generic defensive lineman league, I'm not rostering defensive tackles. Generally speaking, right? And for the NFL side, there's exceptions to that rule, right? Your Aaron Donald, your Christian Wilkins, but that's the exception to the rule. I mean, I don't know what's your thoughts on that, Hollywood.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with you. I think he definitely winds up kicking inside. Um, he does play some edge for them because they're in that 3-4 hybrid top front that they play. But he's shown some natural progression from his freshman in his 3 seasons that he's played. So he's went from 1.5 to 3.5 to 5.5 sacks. The TFLs is what really took off. He went from 1.5, 3.5 to 14. So
He's getting
he
pressure.
seems to get a lot of tackles. Yeah, he's getting a lot of pressure, and he seems to get a lot of tackles. I mean, he had 61 last year, and then he had 50 in 2021. So he makes a lot of stops. I'm with you. He's, like I said, he's probably going D tackle next level. So I don't know how much I'm looking for him on the NFL side. I think
unless you're in a D tackle required league, then you want to own him.
True. So yeah, college wise, I think he's a great play, especially if you're in D tackle league. So
for sure. And then the other guy that we have is Gabe Jackas. Gabe was a true freshman last season. He was a freshman All-American. And from a stat perspective, he didn't that well in turn numbers. Again, he's tackles. But what really jumps out to you is the 4 sacks, right? And he only and so he played in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of their games last year. He had 2 sacks. His big day was against UVA with 2 sacks. But just that production from a true freshman, that's exciting to see. And he has good size. He's 6'3", 265, right? And so he's an outside. I think he's an outside linebacker for them. Is what he's playing in that 3-4 defense. And so he's definitely. I think he got drafted in our listener league this past draft. I'm not sure what round that was in, but he's definitely someone you should be interested in and be looking at in your IDP leagues for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Having a camera malfunction. Stay with me for a minute. I'm sideways. Yeah, not a whole lot to talk about for Illinois right now. But I think Jackas is probably the bigger one that you want. Definitely the name that you want, him being a linebacker. So let's move on to Iowa. And we've got Nick Jackson, linebacker, safety Xavier Wankpa, defensive end Deontay Craig, and Cooper Dijon.
So Nick Jackson's kind of taken over that. Now we've lost you totally, man. Are you still there? There we go.
Yeah, I'm here. I don't know what happened to it.
So Nick Jackson, transferring in from UVA, should be taking over that starting middle linebacker role that's vacated by Jack Campbell. Nick Jackson, been very productive at UVA. Again, I don't think he has much, if any, NFL potential just based on his size, 6'1", 230. And that's what the school says he is, right? So chances are, from at least from height perspective, he's going to be less than that. So I don't know that I expect him to, be much more than a late round or UDFA in the NFL. But he is, from a college career standpoint, like, you couldn't ask for more, right? He's like, just pencil him 100 tackles, 100 plus tackles every year. So I think, that's what he's going to do for Iowa. So from a college production standpoint, he's definitely someone I want on my roster. He's going to be a man in the middle of that defense for Iowa. And like we talked about earlier, that's their strength. And their offense is fairly inept, right? So there's a lot of opportunities for their defense. So Nick Jackson is in my opinion, the linebacker to own for the Hawkeyes from a tackle perspective. The next guy on the list is someone that was drafted pretty high in leagues last year. I don't know if he was the number 1 or number 2 ranked safety coming in as a freshman, Xavier Nwankpa. But I know there was really high expectations for him last season. And I don't know necessarily that, at least up until the bowl game, he really kind of met those expectations. And it's another weird situation here where they burned his red shirt. And we talked about that with C.J. Hicks in Ohio State. And these situations just don't make a whole lot of sense to me. Why you're playing a guy in a 5th game versus, keeping them to 4, so he maintains an extra year of eligibility. Like, in both of the cases of Nwankpa and C.J. Hicks, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense now. And in Nwankpa's case, his 5th game was the bowl game, and that was by far his most productive game. He had 8. He only had 12 total tackles for the year. Well, 8 of those came in that game against Kentucky, the bowl game. And he's someone I think, now that several of the defensive backfield for Iowa has moved on via the NFL draft, he's someone that's going to step in and be a starter for them and should be really productive for that defense. So if he's not rostered in your leagues, then he definitely should. These other guy, Cooper DeJean, top cornerback, right? Defensive back for Iowa. With Riley Moss gone, he should definitely step into that, cornerback, number 1 cornerback role.
And Terry Roberts transferred out. Remember, he went to was it Maryland or Indiana? One of the two. I can't remember which one, but
so
he
last year,
last
year Cooper was actually their 3rd leading tackler with 75 tackles, 8 passes defended, 5 interceptions. If he's not owned in a cornerback required league, like he absolutely should be.
Yep.
These other two guys, I don't know much about. If you want to talk about those, the Craig and Evans.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on Nick Jackson. Right, we saw Jack Campbell put up 100 tackle seasons the last 2 years at Iowa. No reason to think that Nick Jackson can't come in and do that same type of tackle number. So that's an easy one there.
Well, and they lost Seth Benson too, right? So their top two tacklers and top 2 linebackers are gone. So I feel fairly confident that Nick Jackson is going to be a starter for them.
Oh yeah, and he's going to get a lot of tackles. A lot of tackles. So I like him. I like Nwankpa. I think he's going to transition to being that starting safety for them. With some of their secondary,
because they lost
with Merriweather gone
and Moss are gone. Moss was a corner, but
so with them gone, I think he steps into the starting role. He's a big play guy, right? He had one interception last year, 52 yards for a touchdown. He had a fumble recovery. I can see him just being an impact, do it all type player. So definitely somebody I'm targeting for safety. Over the last few years, we've kind of had, I always kind of produced these big edges, right? Such as Lucas Van Ness this year, and you had AJ Epineza 3 years ago, and it's kind of been that same trend. Now, Van Ness is much better than those guys. He's kind of separated himself, but they're back to what they're kind of being, and that's where you kind of bring in Joe Evans and Deontay Craig. Now, I know Craig's a DN, Evans is an outside linebacker, but they're similar players in a way. Deontay Craig is probably going to be their leading pass rusher this year. I know he was last year. He had 7 sacks, 31 tackles, 10.5 for a loss, 3 forced fumbles. But Joe Evans was right behind him with 6.5, and then for context, Lucas Van Ness had 6. I just think that's going to be their 2 pass rushers between the two of them, 13.5 sacks and 19 tackles for a loss of 72 tackles. They're probably entrenched as the starters, and I would think those numbers are probably pretty close to what they'll have once again.
And Evans gave you 40 tackles, which is great too.
Yeah, 40 and the 6.5, and then Craig 31.
Craig didn't really offer much other than sacks.
Yeah. I mean, he caused a few fumbles, but outside of that, being a defensive end, I think they just want him really to set and hold the edge, right? Yeah. And let your linebacker where Jackson's going to come into play, right? So I think that's going to help him. But fantasy-wise, I think the two are, well, Craig's worth more looking at than than Evans, just because of their position designation. Because you want that inside linebacker or middle linebacker like a Jackson more than you want an outside rush guy. And for me to take an outside rush guy,
they got to be elite.
6.5 sacks ain't going to cut it, right? I need more. I need double-digit sacks and close to 15 to 20 TFLs. Like I said, he did have 40 tackles, which is good, but I need more out of him. So I'm looking away from him. Defensive end, I kind of like Craig. I think he can get you 7, 8, 9 sacks. If he can pull up the tackles a little bit, I'd like him a little better, 45. If he can get in that range, that would be really nice. But, that's kind of what Iowa has right now. And then Cooper DeJean, that dude's the next good one, right?
Just first round draft
from Riley Moss to him.
Yeah.
So they've got some interesting players coming in.
I should say.
Yeah, they got some interesting young guys, which I guess we'll have to see. And Wonka's easily the head of the class when it comes to that, but they always just seem to have a good, solid defensive unit. And like we've seen the last 3 years, they've been as dominant, especially last year, as dominant as anybody. And for IDP, that's what you want to see. So let's move on to the Minnesota Gophers. And we have linebacker Ryan Seelig and corner Justin Wally. Did I lose you?
No, I'm still here.
Okay. So Ryan Seelig is a converted tight end linebacker. Come in as a linebacker, went to tight end, switched back. The last 2 years, he come from Western Michigan, so he transferred over from them. The last couple of years, he's been okay, 72 and 63 on the tackles, 13.5 for a loss and 6 sacks with a pick and some 4 fumble recoveries. So not a huge impact player, but I think he'll be decent. I think he's going to be in that 70 to 85 range for tackles.
Right, because they
Minnesota.
lost Mariano Sora Marin,
Yeah.
who's their leading
So there's
tackle.
a hole there.
Lindenberg's still there, but yep.
Yeah. So there's a hole there, no pun intended, but I think you'll fill in quite nicely there. Like I said, if you can get 70 to 85 tackles, I think that's about what's to be expected out of him. And then the corner, Justin Wally for the Gophers, right? Should be a senior this year. Didn't play as a sophomore. Well, that was the whatever. I guess he was redshirted or whatever. Anyway, 39 tackles, 3 interceptions, a couple pass deflections, forced fumble, and a recovery. Kind of left him out there on his own the last, a little bit the last few years. So not somebody I'm really targeting. I guess if you're looking for cornerback help, he's the guy you want to look at. 71%, just over 71% solo rate, so that's good. Anything below, I would say 75, you're probably better to look for other options. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, you take the number of solos and divide it by his tackles, and that gives you his solo rate. So he's at 71 last year. If you look at the last 2 years, he's 72, so not much difference. So 72%, so he's right around what I would call average, 70 to 75. You want to try to be above that, but you definitely don't want to be below 70 because that means that's a lot of assisted tackles, and that can be kind of tricky on scoring if you're dependent on hometowns or home teams to score your tackles for you.
One guy I would add, I guess, for Minnesota is linebacker, who we mentioned just a few minutes ago, linebacker Cody Lindenberg. Last year, he was their second leading tackler. He had 71 tackles as a sophomore. So I think he might be the one to move into that LB1 role, like a 90 tackle. And then like Hollywood said, Seelig kind of moves into the LB2, like the 80 to 70 tackle range.
Right. Yeah, I could see that. I mean, they don't have a whole lot. I mean, looking at their roster, they don't have overall talent. They don't have a whole lot IDP wise to be really enthused about, I guess, is the way to put it. I know they've got Danny Strigo.
There's no Boye Mafe like that.
Yeah, I guess the next one would be Danny Strigo, 6'5", 240. He had 4.5 TFL, 3.5 sacks, and a pick. Outside of that, there's not but he only had 20 tackles. So I don't know if it's him taking the next step this year.
Yeah, he was only a sophomore last year. So
yeah, so I mean, I'm with you. I would look at Lindenberg and Seelig as probably the two that you want from here. And like I said, they could easily have 75 plus tackles, I think.
Yep.
We'll move on to Nebraska. We should have brought Choppy on for this.
Yeah, we should have. And as I was kind of looking at things for Nebraska this right before earlier today, I got some questions, and unfortunately I didn't look until today, so I didn't get to ask Choppy about the questions I have.
Right.
But
we have 3 names here.
Yeah, the stars of the linebackers, right? And I would say before today, I was really excited about Nick Heinrich and Luke Reimer, but Phil Steele has neither one of them starting, which
is
shocks,
interesting to me.
which really shocks me, right? And so I
Yeah,
want
because
to talk to Choppy about it, but I didn't get the opportunity yet. So
well, that's shocking because we just talked about them losing Ernest Hosman, right?
yeah,
So he's not
well,
there.
well, he didn't
He was
start for
there.
him, but
Yeah, but he was their sixth leading tackler. So if he's gone and you don't have Reimer or Nelson as your starters, who the hell are they start?
so Phil still has MJ Sherman, which is the transfer from Georgia, and
Okay, that makes sense.
then John Bullock.
John Bullock.
That's who he has as the starters. And then
Who
he
the
has
hell is
Reimer and Heinrich backing those two up, which
Okay,
just
so John
yeah.
Bullock was on their roster last year, and he had one whopping tackle. I'm assuming this is his brother Alex Bullock, so they probably came in together. But
I think on last year's roster, Bullock was a running back. So yeah,
yeah, I
I
don't.
mean,
You
it just seems really strange to me.
know, that's a hard sell to tell me that
The
you
running backs
lost one
can
of your top
convert into
five guys.
linebacker, and your two top linebackers aren't starting. Yeah.
Exactly. So you're basically losing. If that's the case, you're losing three of your top six tacklers on your defense. All three are linebackers, but you're going to start a running back with one tackle.
Yeah. Yeah. But just,
So
I don't know,
yeah, we
man.
need to bring Mr. Choppy in and I guess clarify if that. I
Well,
mean, I'm guessing.
Heinrich got hurt
I don't know.
last year, right? So he only had 37 total tackles, but he was injured a good part of the year.
Right.
And he was their starter before that, right?
Yep.
And Reimer was their leading tackler with 86 tackles last year and 5 passes defended. I know that Choppy, I don't think he thinks either one of them are great. I think he thinks they're decent for college.
Wow. Mirror, you one froze. I don't know which. I think it was you. I think. Um, let's see here. I think he froze. But yeah, what he was saying is, um, Choppy's not real high on them either. Um, yeah, he froze. So yeah, he's trying to come back in. So Chop's not real high on them either. But considering what they've got, they're decent um, college assets, right? Um, for what's going on. He sent me a message here. I guess he's still trying to get back in. But anyway, that is puzzling to see that their linebackers are not going to be their starters. That's just completely weird to me. Um, from what I saw and what I see, I would think that Reimer and Henrik are your starters. But this John Bullock, I had no idea who this is. Definitely going to be somebody that I'm going to put the name down, right? I'm going to put his name down, see what's going on, see what he's all about. Like I said, I'm not sure who this guy is um, at all. It's just weird that kind of caught me off guard because I wasn't ready for that. Just crazy talk there, I think. Until he can get back, um, we got Miles Farmer on there as well, a safety for Nebraska. Um, he lost his internet connection, but yeah, Miles Farmer was a huge piece for them last year. Second leading tackler, um, 73 tackles, um, one interception, four pass deflections. Um, if they're not going to start Reimer and Henrik, then Farmer is going to be a huge play for them. And I guess it all depends on, because this is going to be a huge change, right? You're going from Scott Frost, who didn't work out. Now you've got Matt Rule in play, who's coming from the NFL, where it didn't quite work out. So this is going to be a big, big change. So you're going to need some patience with Nebraska to see kind of how he's doing things, how things start to get put together, so on and so forth. So yeah, intriguing there. I'm definitely going to have to put John Bullock's name down because, like I said, I have no clue who that is, but I will do some research and let you guys know. Um, kind of piggybacking off this a little bit, I was Husker Camp Countdown number 36, and it's John Bullock. So um, I guess he started out on coverage units. This spring, the coaching staff moved him from the nickel position. I guess is kind of where he's been playing. So basically, he's been in that a nickel defender, special teams option, and they moved. I guess they like what they saw from him this spring. Oh, Justice is back. So they've moved him to a traditional linebacker spot. That's all right. That's all right. I was just finishing up on Nebraska, and I had looked up this Bullock, and it appears that he was basically a special teams guy, nickel defender, but he impressed in the spring game, and they've moved him to a traditional linebacker spot. This will be interesting. There. Yeah, maybe there is. While you were gone, I said I was talking about Farmer because he's their second leading tackler last year, and I said it's just hard for me to believe that Reimer, your leading tackler, Henrik, one of your better tacklers, are not your starters, which is going to be, if that's the case, that could be huge for Miles Farmer as a safety. He's going to get a lot of opportunities to make stops, I think.
Well, I don't know if you mentioned this, but, Farmer had that DUI last year, late in the season.
No, I did not. Yeah. So maybe he's going to be suffering some repercussion. Maybe that's why Bullock's in here. Maybe there's something that Rule knows that we don't. And I had mentioned that, we're going from Scott Frost to Rule now. So there's going to be a change of the guard. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Well, and Farmer, and maybe he's good. I mean, he didn't play Nebraska did it. They didn't make a bowl game, so he wouldn't have played in a bowl game anyway. But
no.
I feel like it was like late November when he got that DUI. So it wouldn't shock me to see a first half or one game suspension or something for that first game. I mean, I haven't seen that or heard that. I'm talking about for this coming season,
he played 11 games. Yeah. Well, he played 11, so maybe he missed one. That might sound right towards the end of the year.
Right, but I mean, he played the November 25th game, which would have probably been the end of the regular season. So, and they didn't have a game after that. So, I'm thinking maybe if he got any kind of punishment, he might be serving that in the first game or so of the year for this coming season.
Yeah, that would be the likely option, I would assume. And they probably play a nobody, right? I don't know what their schedule is, but might be somebody easy for them.
Let's see. They play Minnesota.
Yeah.
Thursday night, August 31st is their first game.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I guess we move on to Northwestern. not a lot to talk about here.
Linebackers.
Both of them are
about
linebackers.
it, right?
Bryce Gallagher and Xander Mueller, or Miller, however you want to pronounce it. Gallagher's a steady Eddie, right? I mean,
Yeah, 100 tackles
plug
last
him in
year.
your lineup, and plug him in your lineup and kind of set it and forget it type deal. Miller was right behind him with 87. So I don't see anything changing there. If anything, I think those could go up a little bit because you're losing out of Tommy out of Waterway. So I know he's more of a pass rusher, but he was a vital piece of that defense. So shoot, if I could speak for Northwestern, I think it's everything revolves around those two, Miller and Gallagher. And I think
and definitely for college production, right? They're definitely going to give you that. They might not offer any NFL, but they at least.
Yeah, I don't know that either one of them is particular NFL bound. I mean, I'm sure they might get a look, but I don't think they're anything special.
But they're going to give you good college production. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. If you've got them on your college team, then they are definitely going to provide you with good scoring, especially if it's skewed towards tackles, right? Solo tackles.
Yeah.
So, I like both of them. Let's go to Purdue. I say sorry to all you Boilermaker fans, but this is not one of your better lineups you've put out here. We have two for them, safety Cam Allen and linebacker Nick Caraway.
And I think Nick Caraway is more like an outside linebacker too, like edge type.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. Is he a transfer?
No, he was a true freshman last year. 6'4", 260. He had 22 total tackles and 2 sacks.
Oh, there he is. Yeah. And then Cam Allen, he was their third leading tackler, 49 tackles, 3 interceptions.
Lost their second leading tackler, Jalen Graham. He's in 49ers.
Yeah, which may help Caraway a lot. That's a big hole. That's a lot of production. You got to field 52 tackles, 5 pass deflections from Graham. So
and help Allen too as a safety role.
Looking at Allen, he's more of a playmaker in the secondary. 3 interceptions, 6 PBUs. Looks like he's got some home run ability. Taking them to the house with the 1 touchdown there. So
65-yard touchdown.
I was trying to look to see. Looks like this guy right here. I'm trying to see if he may be going. Jack Sullivan may be going.
Yes, Jack Sullivan transferred to USC.
Yes, I'm not sure who they've got pass rusher wise. Maybe.
Well, I'm wondering if Caraway, I'm trying to look right now to see kind of where they're projecting Caraway to be.
They've got Kidron Jenkins still. He'll be a senior, and he had 32 tackles, 8 for a loss, and 4 sacks last year.
Joe Anderson.
They don't really have. Yeah, they don't really have a.
And again, this baffles me, but Phil still has Caraway as an inside linebacker, and at 6'4", 260, I don't see him playing inside linebacker. If anything, he's a edge guy,
Yeah, that's more Zaven Collins size right there, 6'4", 260.
He's an edge guy. I think he's not a middle linebacker.
Yeah, they've got Cordace Sidner, a defensive end, 6'4", 265. He's going to be a senior, 6.5 TFLs, 4.5 sacks. So, nothing jumps off the page to me with their team. Yeah. So I think it's going to be Allen and Caraway. If Caraway gets to play inside, that's only going to help his numbers, I think, from a tackle perspective. But
yeah, I don't think either one of these guys aren't anyone I'm interested in rostering. I Yeah, I'll probably put him on a watch list or something, but I'm not
Yeah,
drafting
and
them.
I think I would take Allen over Caraway. I think.
Yeah, if I had to pick one, yeah, I would, I guess. But neither one of them, I don't think I'm right.
Right. And that brings us to our final team, the Wisconsin Badgers. We got a few names here. Mema Jongmate, linebacker.
Maema and Jong Meta.
Yeah, what you said. Ricardo Hallman, the corner. Jordan Turner, a linebacker. Brian Sanborn, a linebacker. And Jordan Mayer, linebacker. I kind of looked because I was looking at Brian Sanborn, and yes, that's the younger brother of Jack Sanborn, who played at Minnesota or played at Wisconsin and now plays for the Bears. I was looking to see maybe where he is, and I didn't see anything that they have set their official roster yet either. So I don't know. John Maeda, 95 tackles. He was the leader. Jordan Turner was second with 65. So I'm assuming those are the two starters.
So the three starting linebackers are, according to Phil Steele, are Njong Meta, Jordan Turner, and Jason Maitra.
Jason,
Maitre, Maitra.
What's overlooking here? I'm not. Is he?
He's a transfer from Boston College.
Okay. That's why I'm not seeing him here then.
Looks like he had maybe 32 starts and 133 tackles at Boston College.
Okay. So it looks like they returned those top two tacklers.
Actually, I'm sorry. No, I was looking at the wrong thing. He's a nickelback. The Petrowski is the other outside linebacker. So he's got Njong Meta, and in the middle with Petrowski and Turner.
I don't see Petrowski. Is he a transfer?
He's a transfer from Michigan State, and then the other. So I guess they run I don't really know. They must. It looks like they run like really from a linebacker's perspective, a 2-4 with two outside linebackers as the edge guys, and he has those as C.J. Goetz and Petrowski. Petrowski transferring from Michigan State, and then the two linebackers starting is Njong Meta and Turner.
Yeah, so Njong Meta and Turner's their top two returning tacklers, 95 and 65. Goetz it was third with 62. Just kind of looking down through here, I guess the young guys, Sanborn and Mayer, will be maybe next year or the year after, as they're still pretty young. So, and then Ricardo Hallman, if I'm not mistaken,
he's got Sanborn as third string behind Turner and Tatum Grass.
Yeah, I think he's a freshman or red shirt. He's got a lot of eligibility left, so. But yeah, not a whole lot to.
I mean, I think Njong Meta is like the one that should be rostered for sure.
Yeah,
and he's someone that could be available in most leagues. I feel like in our listener league, I'm pretty sure he just got drafted, so he was a free agent in that league. I'm pretty sure Brock just drafted him. And I feel like it was later in the
Ricardo
draft.
Hallman on there. Yeah, I put Hallman on there as a corner. If you want to take a flyer on a super young player, he'll be a junior this year, but showed out during the spring game, if you will. Go check that out. He made a bunch of plays, opened a lot of eyes. So he may be somebody that they look to try to get more on the field. Has some home run hitting ability, but again, a corner, you can kind of find them anywhere. But if you're a Badger fan or just like corners or whatever, he might be worth taking a flyer on.
And like we said, they lost Nick Herbig, who was their edge guy, 11 sacks last year. He just got drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then they lost Keanu Benton, defensive tackle. So, I'd probably be paying attention to their defensive line first couple games, kind of see who's stepping up at edge, and if you're in a D tackle league, who's stepping up at D tackle. Looks like the starters for the edges are going to be C.J. Goetz and Petrowski, who we mentioned is a transfer from Michigan State, and defensive tackle is Rodis Johnson and James Thompson. So I'd kind of
and looking, none of them
for
really
those first
jump
couple
off the
weeks.
page as far as pass rushers either. So
Yeah,
Goetz had 62 tackles, but he only had 2 sacks. So
8 TFLs it looks like.
Yeah.
And Petrowski had 43 tackles.
Mm-hmm. So maybe he's the guy that comes in and can provide the spark for him, I guess, maybe.
Yeah, I'd be just kind of pay attention the first couple games and see if somebody's kind of stepping up into that Nick Herbig role.
Yeah. Well, that does it for our Big Ten West IDP preview. Next week, we're going to hit the ACC with the Atlantic Division. Can't wait to dig into that. I think that'll be fun. I've already started making some of the lists. I need to transfer them over, but that'll be a good one to look at.
Thanks for doing that Monday. Is that right?
Yeah, we can do that Monday day whenever. Just let me know. As always, thank you for listening and viewing. I said in the other episode, in case you missed it, we're up to 24 subscribers now on YouTube. Thank you so much for that. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe over there. Help us grow. Do the same thing where you listen to podcasts.
Hit the like button on YouTube.
Hit that like button. Help us grow. Do the same thing on podcasts, right? Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, Podbean, iHeartRadio, wherever. Be sure to give us a 5-star review rating. You can go over to IDP Nation. There's a whole review section over there. You can leave us comments, good, bad, whatever. Let us know. Help us grow. You can follow us on Twitter at Devy IDP Grind. You can find me at Hollywood Titan. And you can find Justice at Justice_2318. If we've missed anybody, feel free to let us know and say, hey, you guys missed this. Take a look at this player. What do you think about this guy? We're always glad to help. We have a lot of fun doing this for you guys. So we appreciate the feedback. We appreciate the follows, the views, the listens, the likes. Like I said, we'll be back next week with the ACC Atlantic. That should be fun. That's correct me. That's the Clemson division, correct?
Yes, that's Clemson's side.
Yeah. So we will be back with that. And with that, we are out. And I am not forgetting the outro this time, Justice. I have it right here.